What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C-Dub, and the fellas and I are back for another weekend tailgate where today we discussing injuries, who's impressing the coaches, and other news surrounding spring camp. Fellas, y'all ready to talk some football today?
Yeah, let's go.
You
Let's go.
know.
Well, the guys are ready, and I hope you are because the tailgate starts right now.
You are now listening to the unmistakable sound of the War Report Weekend Tailgate. It's your boy, I Jones. Be real. C-Dog. Mike G. Get ready. Sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, welcome to the tailgate. Guys, come on into the room, smash the like button, leave a comment, a War Eagle preferably if you Auburn family, or just shout your city out if you're new to the channel or not of the Auburn family. Hope you guys are doing well. Guys, how we doing?
Amazing.
I'm a little disappointed with these injuries, man. Injury.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of took me down.
Kind of killed your hobby.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, listen, we're gonna talk about that and more, man. But letting people fall in the room. Shout out a few people. Lawrence Robinson finished church, ready for the fellowship. But now you're in War Report Church, where you about to get this word from us. So shout out to you, James Barnett. Another one. Let's go, War Eagle to you, my friend. So yeah, man. Pete Barham. Just to highlight a few people while y'all coming on in here. We giving y'all a little bit more time to fall on in the room. But yeah, everyone's doing good so far, right? Other than B.
Yeah, I mean, I would be. It's always a bummer when injuries happen. I know we'll get into that later. But for the most part, they're progressing along. And listen, I believe, based on what we've heard so far, that Mr. Harsin, in line with the War Report, is a no sunshine pump type coach this spring. I heard a whole lot of sunshine pumping coming from him. He seems pretty realistic about where they're at, where people are at, and what they have to do. So, the message is kind of evolving. I think that he's learning how he wants to communicate in this new zone that he's in Auburn. So yeah, I'm liking it so far. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him so far. We'll see. We got a couple more weeks till spring practice is over, and then we'll get an A-Day and see what the culmination of all this ends up being.
Yeah. I've been paying attention to his approach to spring ball, and we can go ahead and just start talking about the fact that we had a scrimmage this past Thursday, the day after we had our live with JJ Tate. Shout out to him, friend of the show, and some high marks coming from the defense. I'm not surprised. I mean, that let's be real, that was the most developed side of the ball. They returned the most experience. So it goes without saying, with the question marks being on the offensive side of the ball, who was going to win this first scrimmage. But did anyone have any different takes, any different reactions to what we heard coming out of the first scrimmage?
I think it's encouraging when the defense wins scrimmages, personally. I think if your offense is dominating your defense, you're probably in for a long season. That's every good year we've had, for the most part. When we hear about the defense dominating during practice, it's only going to serve to make the offense better. And so now that we're running ones versus ones, and this is a lot of competition that's happening in practice that a lot of these guys haven't seen consistently for 2 years in practice. They're not seeing this level of competition until Saturdays. Harsin is changing all that. So I expect it to be a little rough on them at first in practice. And then, maybe toward the tail end of practice, we'll see the offense start to get their groove and there'll be a healthy back and forth between offense winning and defense winning. But definitely not surprised that the defense is dominating today.
You know what? That scares me. It scares me that our defense is dominating because we didn't have a lot of effective linemen last year. We had some guys who were productive in spurts, but nobody scared you. And it's not that those guys can't improve. It's that our offensive line has always been a liable. Always. It's been a liability for the last 2 years. And without saying it, they've alluded to as much already with not being certain where guys are going to go. So what it says to me is that our line isn't any better. That's what it says to me. Our offensive line isn't any better because the same guys, defensive line, who were just okay, are now dominating. And they may have been dominating last year. We just never would have heard it, in camp before, this coaching staff. So to me, it says we've got work to do on the offensive line. And because, like JG has been adamant, we need a new tackle. We need a new tackle. We don't need to shuffle guys to kind of make a tackle. We need a new tackle that's not here, and we don't have it. And the offensive line is getting beat up in practice already. So what it means is they're going to have to be pulling some Houdini to get the line to be as productive, or we don't. Tank can do it without a great offensive line. The quarterback position probably won't be able to do it without a great offensive line. So it leads to what Mike was disappointed about on our Wednesday show, which is it's going to be looking very traditional. It's going to look very conservative. And even if that's not our best selves, I'd be hopeful once we get all the pieces on the defense end. We got Leota coming from Northwestern. Dylan Brooks isn't even on campus yet. We're going to look, I think, even better than we look right now on defense. And man, you hate to hear somebody like, Wright going down, because we may have been looking scary before those two guys even got here. But now I'm still certain with our defensive coordinator, who is really encouraging to hear him talk, not only about the players and the progress, but about the staff around him. Like that type of confidence. I'm glad we didn't get that drop off. That's what we were all afraid of with a whole coaching change, right?
Right.
Steele had it right. We didn't think Gus had it right. But if you get rid of Gus, you got to get rid of Steele. Are we going to reset? Apparently, we are not resetting. We may be continuing or even improving development on the defensive side of the ball. So knowing that, it makes me worried about the offensive line. I'm less worried about the defense. But I was hoping that there was some magic that these guys could do with actually giving us a solid offensive line out of the pieces we had. But I think Gus and Cole kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel to get the guys that they had here. And I don't think there may be room for improvement, but I don't think it's going to be as significant as I probably hoped in my head. Not that we had heard from anybody that, hey, the offensive line is going to jump forward by leaps and bounds, but I was hoping, man, can somebody do better with these guys? But I don't think it's going to be this year. I think it's going to be just doing what we can on the O-line this year.
Yeah, I think they just got to scheme around it. They're just going to have to scheme around what our offensive line deficiencies are, which, again, will require max efficiency from everybody around them. Again, I take a lot of heat for saying, putting a lot on the quarterback. But to be fair, all these pieces are going to have to help each other for this to work when your offensive line may be behind the eight ball a little bit. So, play calling first and foremost. Mm-hmm. It's got to start with play calling. All these slow developing plays, if you miss to chop it up with Devin, Aromashadu, Ike and Devin went into it. On a lot of these plays, even in our better games, there were no options for the quarterback. It looked like a Madden Hail Mary play a few times out there where everybody's running, 25 yards deep, and there were no underround. And then we're in a max protect with no leak out option, no dump off option for the quarterback. So what that requires of your offensive line that's already struggling? It requires them to block, to hold, give the quarterback 5 seconds to throw the ball. That's ridiculous. Right. The average quarterback in the SEC gets well under 3 to throw.
Right.
So when you call plays that require that much of your offensive line, I just don't think it's fair to them. I don't.
Or your quarterback.
Yeah.
Or your quarterback.
Right? Same, right, because he's got no options. There's nothing for him to check down.
Right.
He's got to look downfield and try to make reads way down the field.
I jump in here, man. What are your thoughts on what Mike has said? Defense winning the first scrimmage. I mean, is it anything to make of it? It's just the first scrimmage, so a lot can change, after this scrimmage. But what do you make of it, sir?
Actually, I don't make too much of it at all. I anticipated the defense winning the first scrimmage. I think I said as much before the scrimmage started. I expect the defense to get off to a quicker start just because, as you alluded to at the beginning, there's more experience coming back that had already been playing well, right? So you don't have to worry as much about those guys being able to perform. And then from a scheme standpoint, I just think that it's less of a change for the defense. Like I know they're going from a 3-4, from a 4-3 to a 3-4, but really that's just technique and gap assignment. For the offense, you're talking about complete overhaul from all the way from where the quarterback is taking the snap and what his footsteps need to be, right? Like that's just different. It's different kind of timings that they're going to be running. It's different kind, like for the first time in, thankfully, this is actually, a bright spot that we haven't pointed out. Thankfully, all of our receivers are young, so they don't have to unlearn a lot of bad things that were in the previous thing about like not really understanding what your route trees are supposed to be and what your assignments are. Like when we talked to Devin, and somebody, I don't know if we shouted out this super chat, but let me go ahead and throw this up here. Go ahead. Lee 3 said, film breakdown with Devin on Thursday, eye-opening to see how poorly designed some of the routes were. Keep them coming. Thank you very much for that, Lee 3. And this definitely the conversation with Devin highlighted a lot of the things that I've been kind of expressing to you all about my frustration with our wide receiver group specifically, and not necessarily with them as players, but just more so about what they were being asked to do and what they were being taught. You see, they were not understanding the entirety of what needs to happen on a play, right? And so when you have receivers that, they don't understand fully their responsibilities. They're just out there running routes because coach said I'm supposed to run this route 15 yards and break here. If you don't understand all of what needs to be happening, then you can't make the adjustments on the fly. The quarterback damn sure isn't making any adjustments on the fly because he isn't given any responsibility to learn how to do those things. So it's going to take more for those guys to understand the nuance of playing offense when you're having to be more heady from play to play as opposed to go out there and mechanically execute something. And if it goes wrong, we see the results. Right? When it goes wrong in a system that doesn't allow for you to make adjustments because you see the defense is doing something you haven't anticipated, it falls apart disastrously. And that's what we've been seeing over the last, unfortunately, 8 years is if it falls apart, then you just got to have a miracle worker at quarterback that can just go out there and produce something, right? Yeah. As opposed to having a situation where people are allowed to freestyle a little bit and make something out of nothing within the confines of what the offense allows for you to do. And you're letting people play football now, and you're not telling them to go out there and play. I don't know what. I feel like I'm getting bashing a little, but I'm just like it's not. That was not football. I'm sorry. Like that was. It was a Pee Wee League version of it. Because listen, I played Pee Wee football. And that's exactly what you did in Pee Wee football. It was like coach said, run and do this thing, and you just did it. Didn't really even matter what the defense was doing and all that stuff. You just run into a spot that they told you to run to. Right. And that's not how you play football at an advanced level, man. Like, and even if the execution is flawless on your end, all it takes is good defense, and it destroys all of that. So, I fully anticipated the defense taking the leap first. Hopefully we will see some differences as they start to learn. And as Mike said, as the scheme starts to progress, right? As you start to see them understanding the strengths and weaknesses of our team and our players, and they scheme around those things and scheme around the deficiencies, we'll start to see the offense win the day a little bit more, hopefully. Right.
Real quick on just piggybacking that, because I see that Chalmers here had a comment where he was saying, so Mike, you're saying the O-line is Bo's problem. No, I'm saying that the play calling is making the O-line a problem for everybody.
Yeah.
When you have a slow developing play, right? It just requires. I don't think that it's reasonable for any O-line, right? I read an interesting statistic that there's that PFF does all these Pro Football Focus does all these interesting breakdowns where they talk about at what point in the play does the offense have an advantage or the defense have an advantage, right? And on average, when a play is slow developing, right, it is bad for the offense because it usually means that something didn't go as planned. And you're having to improvise on the fly. And the better teams can do that, but only if you have that skill. Devin talked about how he would read the DB covering him and see the coverage and then know where to run his route. And the quarterback is seeing the same thing. So I mean, it's just got to be. These guys have a lot to learn in terms of how to play their positions. I just don't think you can call. You can have 3 receivers on the field, call all 3 routes 20 plus yards, and then get mad at the O-line because they couldn't hold the block long enough for that play to develop consistently. And you're consistently calling plays like that. I don't think that's fair to them. So I don't think it's fair to Bo either.
Right.
Honestly, so he sees it, and after a normal amount of time, right, the defense starts to get to the quarterback. We see Bo roll out, and everybody says 2 things happen. Both of them are taking unnecessary flack. Somebody says, you see, Bo's running for his life. No, they blocked for a normal amount of time. This play was just crap.
Yeah.
Or they say, Bo rolled out the pocket too early. No, he did the only thing he could do because of this bogus play call.
Yeah. And that's the truth. The truth of the matter, the more and the more and the more I watch the film, I have to give some reprieve to both the offense. Now, don't get me wrong. Offensive line was terrible in some situations, and we looked at film of that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Bo was terrible in some situations. We will look at film about that. But the more and more I look at it, the more and more I have to put that blame squarely on the people calling and designing these plays, because it was mind-boggling to watch a play develop and it be so terrible for the scenario. It's just like, who decided this was a good idea to call in this situation? 2nd and 5, and all of the routes are 20 yards or more, all of them, and you got 3 guys in the route combination. All 3 of them are running 20-yard routes. Why does that make sense to anybody? I'm not saying don't take a shot on 2nd and 5. That's actually a really great time to have a shot called. But it's also a really great time if that shot doesn't work in the first 3 seconds that you have an outlet to go to.
Right.
It didn't exist on the play. And I was looking at it because as you're calling max protect, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got Tank basically standing back there playing bouncer at the club, waiting for somebody to come through, as opposed to, okay, 1, 2, 3, nobody's there, release. Right? Nobody's come through. If after 3 seconds, this ball is not out and no one has come through on a blitz, I need to be live on this play. Right. Didn't happen at all. I can't even explain my confusion in watching that. I was just like, what? Somebody thought this was a good idea. They designed the play like this. That's not a bust on anybody's part. Everybody ran the play exactly how it was designed, and it was awful.
Yeah.
You can't fault Bo Nix or the offensive line for terrible play calling and design. You just can't. So we set our guys up for failure. There's just no 2 ways about it. And I know we got some super chats we need to get to. So
so let me shout out.
Hey, Trey.
What's up, man?
Welcome. Eric Coleman asks, and appreciate that, by the way. Heard Javaris. Well, Mike's guy is actually Malcolm Johnson, but Javaris
I'm high on Javaris too.
You high on Javaris? Okay.
I'm high on Javaris too, and I think there's a chance that they both see the field. But I mean, he's been killing it, right? The coaches have been talking about it. Harsin is, so I wanted to highlight this point. Could we be in an era when the coaches talk about somebody doing well, that person is actually doing well, and we might actually see that in the fall? Right. Because all the lip service that was being paid to players in the spring before didn't seem to manifest into much.
Right.
They talk about some player.
Yeah, I think that's what kills spring excitement, because after a while you didn't know, you couldn't really take what the coaches were saying. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't really believe, okay, are they really doing well, or you just doing some magic over here, and we're focusing on this guy, but he's not going to play at all in the fall. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. So again, to your point, Mike, could be.
Yeah. Or is it propaganda? Was it propaganda that they're trying to sell to us that guys are progressing as a ploy to the media, when the truth is they don't look any better? Or is what we're seeing fake because they're doing it against scout team and second team defense? Or so you don't know whether it's real or not.
Which is what I'd like to think is Gus recruited from the podium a lot. And that's a coach's job as well. You
Right.
recruit with your on-field product. You recruit, but you can also recruit in the media, which means, oh yes, this guy who just came in and he's fresh in the spring. Oh, he looks great. We're looking forward to seeing what he can do. We see a spot for him in the fall, which Gus said that a lot. We could definitely see him contributing early. Did we? We had like 2 spring day MVPs or whatever of A-Day that didn't see the field in the fall for more than like less than 20 reps when that fall came and gone, or weren't even on the team by the time the fall got there. So a lot of that was Gus manipulating, because he still got to go into homes and say, hey, you come here for the spring and get ready. We're going to play for the fall, because kids want to play. They want to see the field. But he knew that he wasn't going to trust people who haven't been there in his system for so long. So what are you going to do? Hype him up in the spring. You're not technically lying. Oh, he looks good. Yeah, we could see him contribute or whatever he's going to say. Yeah, but it didn't work because we don't see him. And then the cat was out of the bag and we stopped being able to get certain types of recruits.
Yeah, facts. All facts.
So Walt Taylor got a question for us. Appreciate you, sir.
Hey, man. My man, Walt.
Did it sound like Harsin was considering moving JJ Pegues to defense or even O-line in his comments about him?
It sounded like he wants to use him anywhere he can use him, and he's going to be productive. That's what it sounded like to me. He's impressed with him as a athlete and with his effort, but they don't know 100% where they want him right now. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, I think that Harsin is starting to come around to an old way of thinking that we had gotten used to, from about the year 2000 through 2008 or 9, where guys come in and maybe they're and they become stars at what is not their natural position, right? Because they just have talent, and he's a big guy, he's athletic, he was an awesome basketball player as well. I just don't think that you can get guys with that sort of athleticism and then not use them in some kind of meaningful way. So, the message is this guy's going to get on the field and he's going to make an impact. We're going to utilize his talents in some kind of way. I really do believe it will be at tight end, though. So having a guy like that, if he can block as well, just keeping him in there on those max protects, and and then teaching these guys how to release if not needed, right, and becoming a throwing option for the quarterback, right? Block, block, block. I don't have no work. Throw me the ball.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you got guys who can make the catches and make the plays and find space, then why not utilize them? I can't stress enough. I mean, I'm going to say it a lot of times before this live is over, but play calling was absolute trash the more we go over it. And you guys are going to see how even more trash it was if you get on these next few chop it ups that we have. So I want to take this moment, because we're at the 23-minute mark, to talk about that for a second. Listen, we appreciate you guys supporting us, becoming an insider. $5.99 will get you there. So we are we're building, we're growing. This past Chop It Up with a Pro, where we did film review, is the last Chop It Up that will be available to view if you are not an insider. So it will be restricted to only insiders moving forward. If you want to get a little piece of that, the guy asked the guys in the comments who are already insiders how great that session was. It was amazing. I learned a lot. Devin was very insightful. So I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, you can support our work also by hitting our GoFundMe. You can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel. This is one great way to support what we do on a monthly basis. I've been overwhelmed by the generosity of our members and our subscriptions, and just wanting to help us bring you guys more content like this. And then if you notice, we're all decked out in Get Your Weight Up gear. It's that time of year to get your weight up. Summer is coming. We're headed into the spring. Get your weight up, right? And if you get that now, I did an amazing job. For those of you who don't know, he does all the graphics on our show. And those graphics are amazing. We've taken that and we've turned it into merchandise that you guys might actually want to put on your body to represent Auburn and the War Report. So we appreciate that you guys are doing that. Can't stress enough, though, become an insider. Our next Chop It Up with a Pro locked in is with Chris Todd. Now, Chris did a building rapport with us, so he'll do a Q&A in 2 weeks, next Thursday. And then 2 weeks from that Thursday, he will do a film review with us, just like Devin did. And I'm telling you, I can't wait for that. So we're going to put some film. We're going to put plays on the screen. We've illustrated everything out for you guys to be able to see what's happening there, and then talk about, what we want to see differently moving forward. So Chris is a great guy. He's working with kids now, and I enjoy talking to him even off camera about just football philosophy. It's going to be great. So you don't want to miss Ike and Chris chopping it up. I don't talk a lot on these. I'm in the background controlling film, but I'm telling you, if you watching these two guys do this, is going to be amazing for a lot of you. So become an insider so you can have access to that.
Before we get back into it, want to shout out a few people.
Burner
shout
account.
out to you, Burner account. Appreciate that, War Eagle brethren. Also, Mr. Warner, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate you, my good guy. Also, Bug Mac. Appreciate that.
Bug Mac, my man.
Believe I skipped over Jerome Marshall. Thank you,
Hey.
sir. Welcome.
Welcome.
Our good guy who celebrated an anniversary recently,
Hey,
Mr.
happy
Forrest
anniversary.
Weber. So yeah, shout out to you, man. Appreciate that as always.
Texas, they're trying to talk about they want to tie everybody to that Texas job, man.
Yeah, man.
I heard that. I heard that. Well,
I don't think there's any legs to that. No, I certainly hope not. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think Bruce will stay put. Yeah.
I mean, he seems happy to me. He's doing whatever he wants to
can
do
win
here.
He
can
can
win here. He's proven he can win. So
and recruiting has not been an issue for him. I don't think that it will be any easier for him at Texas, right? He can develop, and if he keeps winning like he is and keeps program stability, he can make all the money he wants to make as well, too. I mean, I know Texas has deep pockets, but, relatively speaking, we can afford to pay him like a top 10 coach. So I expect him to stay.
The only fly on the wall that might say, hey, he might go to Texas is that he went from that bright Tennessee orange to a little more muted Auburn orange. And then Texas at the end of the spectrum, another orange. So listen,
that puke orange.
The tea leaves of color say he might like that autumn orange more than the Auburn orange. So let's hope there's nothing to that though.
Yeah, that's puke orange. I threw up my tequila sunrise orange. I like it.
But
shout out to Walt.
Again.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate
I
you
agree.
Corey.
That was petty. That was petty, but I like it.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate you, brother.
Oh,
that's my kind. That's my type of guy right there.
It's funny.
But listen,
and Corey, if y'all don't know, they have this thing in the comments where they have to one up each other. So
yeah,
because you notice Corey's first one was $9.99, and you got a $10. Now you got a $10.01. I'll get it right. Hold on.
He'll get it fixed. But yeah, man. Let's let me ask you guys this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, those in the chat with us. Harsin talked about scrimmage, and he talked about needing to take a break this week. I think there's no spring break. I think they call it wellness days. I had no clue Auburn was doing that.
Right.
But they're going to take like a traditional week off like they would for spring break. And of course, they're still going to be in the weight room, but they're going to be doing a lot of film review and evaluating themselves, not just as players, but as coaches. And is this something that we can get excited about with a coaching staff that is looking at what we do well, looking at what we don't do so well, and either work on coaching them up or scheming around those issues, as opposed to that square peg in a round hole that we've been acclimated to in previous years? Does that give us some type of excitement when we hear Harsin talk about the need to evaluate what we're doing and make changes over the last 2 weeks of spring camp?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the evaluation is one of the things that we've been looking forward to seeing a change in that area. How they evaluate what we have so that they can then change how they use what we have. Yeah. Because if you're evaluating a guy to be one thing and your evaluation is wrong, you're not going to use him to his max potential. And that has been a theme over the last 8 years. Players on offense have underwhelmed because we have not used them right. I mean, a lot of people evaluated Schwartz as just a deep guy. The truth is that he was fairly decent at running routes and he had great hands. But because of the way we used him, the average fan had no choice mentally but to evaluate him as only a run deep guy, a go route guy.
Right.
Truth is, he could have been used in so many different ways. He was an exceptional talent and a great wide receiver. Just didn't use him that way. So evaluation, I am encouraged about the change in evaluation. When you talk, even listen to our quarterback, he is clearly getting feedback on what he needs to work on.
Right.
We take a lot of flack for telling people that, Bo needs to work on his footwork. Well, guess what? The coaches are telling him that now. Yeah. And he is coming out and saying, I need to work on my I don't think that that's coming out of nowhere. I think that he got that. He's getting that feedback consistently. Fix your footwork, son. You cannot deliver a consistent football if your feet are consistently a mess.
Right.
That's it. That's what we see in the tape when we review it. And he's got all the arm talent. That's why it's so frustrating. But again, how they're evaluating and giving feedback is changing. I think it's better. I think it's already a step up. And the players are getting excited. The players who made the decision to come back are saying, hey, now I might get more opportunities to showcase my talents, to help the team in a positive way, because the system has changed. I mean, there will be guys that are just beasts, and they, like guys like Tank, if you have a decent offensive line, those guys are going to run for yards, right? But, the difference between a guy like Tank being a good running back and a league NCAA leading running back is scheme and system. He can't do it all on his own. He just can't. We got to help him.
Yeah, I saw a comment earlier about offensive scheme and wondering whether or not the pro style offense will be able to keep up in this era. And then there's a thing here about Mike Bobo being inflexible in his ability to design plays or call plays. I think that's where Brian Harson's going to come into that, right? Like, we talked about his way of being multiple in the way that he puts his offensive sets together. That's what's going to allow the creativity to come out. It's just we're going to design better plays. Now, we're going to still have very pro-style concepts, right? We're going to come in heavy packages. I don't think that because your offense is pro-style, it cannot also be high-powered, right? Like, you can spread people out and have formations that are going to look different with a pro-style concepts to the way that we approach, reads, right? Like the way that you're looking at the route trees, the way that you are going to be like. Just because you spread people out doesn't mean that it's not also pro style. Like there again, I said this when I was talking about the Harsin breakdown. There's a difference between being in a pro set, which means that everything is bunched and you got 21, 12, 22 personnel, but it's like all under center and it's very 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of stuff, and being pro style, which is really more about your route combinations and concepts and the way that it's not the check with me football that we've seen over the last 8 years where we're going to line up in something and then everybody's going to turn and look to the sideline for a play call because the coach is deciding what the defense is in. So then he's going to call a play based upon that. It's really more so we're going to call a play in the huddle and we're going to have a designed second play out of the huddle so that we can audible to that based upon the look that the quarterback is getting. Everybody understands what play 1 is and the play 2 audible is. The offensive line is going to call their own protections based upon what they see. So that center needs to get down there. He needs to understand, hey, I'm going to point out where the mic is. Quarterback points out where the mic is. We're going to understand what our slide concept is based upon which way we want to slide for the pressure. Pass that along to everybody else. This is something that Devin talked about. The wide receivers needing to understand what the pass protection is so they understand if they're hot off 1 or hot off 2, right? So I understand if I am the main read on that or I continue to run my original route based upon what all of those things are pro concepts, right? And we're going to see more of that. How quickly the team adjusts and develops to those sorts of things is going to determine how high powered that offense can be. You look at the offense that LSU ran, right? People don't think that that's pro style. It actually is. It's a very pro style. Like Brady was putting it seemed really simple because, it's just a bunch of slants. But what they're doing is they're doing sight adjustments, right? They're adjusting to, okay, they're playing this kind of zone. This is who I'm hot off of, right? I see where the pressure's coming from. Right. He's reading that immediately and understanding where my quick throw is to be able to get me a couple of yards and go on to the next play, right? And I'm understanding also where my shots need to be. Those are very pro style in concepts, right?
Right.
But and Ed Darby says, sounds like regular football. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We're playing football here. We're not going out here playing. I don't know what to call the other stuff. And that isn't not to say that it wasn't. Hear me when I say this. I'm not saying you cannot be successful running Gus Malzahn's style of offense. Clearly, he had success. What I want you to stop and evaluate is after there were changes to the way that they officiated rules, right? Where the defense had time to adjust. How successful was that offense at producing points, right? Racking up a bunch of yards, how many points did it produce? Evaluate that, number one. Number two, evaluate how in recent years, how much that winning was a byproduct of the defense putting the offense in opportune positions as opposed to the offense consistently dominating the line of scrimmage and or putting a bunch of points up. So when you evaluate those two things, then you come back and talk to me about whether or not that offense can be productive just because it's spread out and it's new, right?
Yeah.
The concepts have to be more pro because the players on the other side aren't going to fall for the same 3 plays over and over again, regardless of the window dressing that you put on it.
Right.
Unless you've got talent on your offensive line and at the quarterback position.
Yeah. If you can block everything,
do anything they want to do. He could not get that because,
and I think that's the frustration. Right.
Right.
That's the frustration people have with the offensive line because they remember offensive lines that were just completely dominant out there.
Right.
And they're saying, well,
Right.
if we have the offensive line like that, but you're not going to win like that every time. So you need to be able to adjust and understand there are different things I need to be able to do as a play caller, as a play designer to go around the deficiencies that I may have. If I know my left tackle is weak at pass protection, what am I going to do? I'm going to slide that protection away from him. We're going to roll the quarterback the opposite direction or have quick throws that indicate that we know where the pressure likely is going to be coming from, or we're going to do some sort of combo blocking on his side, right? We're going to understand these are where my deficiencies are. I'm going to make sure I give him some help. Am I going to make sure that, okay, if my tackle is going to have problems with outside protection, we're going to make sure that he protects to the inside and chip block with somebody. Like there's things you can do to combat that. Like it's not, oh, well, it's messed up. What are we gonna like? That's not how you coach. I'm sorry. I have never coached a day in my life. Somebody can come in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I will come right here and say, you know what? I had that completely wrong.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing you can do when you have a weak left tackle.
I want to just in line with that. I just want to say because I see Kenneth Sims here seems to be really down on Bobo. It seems he thinks Bobo is boo boo, but I just want to say that rigidity. Well, that's not a word.
Rigidity.
Rigidity is where you're going.
Rigidity.
Yeah, right. That you think a Bobo. I think that's where having an offensive-minded head coach comes in. Right, because they're collaborating on this offense, and he's going to execute. Make no mistake, he's going to execute Harson's vision of this offense, or he'll be gone. I mean, we saw it with Gus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Everybody that came in, they didn't really have a choice but to execute his vision of the offense.
Good point.
Right. So, I mean, that's where Bobo talked a little bit in some of these pressers about the collaboration that they're doing on play design and scheme. So, again, eat the meat, spit out the bones, man. The stuff that works, right? That's why having a good offensive-minded head coach comes into play. It's just that Harsin has, again, more pro-style concepts. He's got some hurry-up, no-huddle stuff. He is truly multiple. Bobo is going to have to be multiple in his play call. I don't think that he's going to have a choice, or it will be a short-lived stint for him on the Plains.
I've said this over and over again. I actually don't have a problem with the way that Bobo calls plays. He actually puts pretty good game plans into effect. The question is whether or not he's going to be designing some of the plays, like whether or not the play designs are going to be better, right? And again, to echo what Mike just said, that's where Harsin comes in. He's going to help put the plays in place. Bobo actually analyzes defenses fairly well, but you look at maybe some of the concepts that he had previously at South Carolina when he was with a defensive-minded head coach who wasn't giving him any more exotic type of things to think about on the offense to spice up his play design. When you look at, his stint at Georgia when 3 yards in a cloud of dust was the standard, so he didn't have to. I think Harsin requires him to evolve his play design. Bobo still does a good job of analyzing the defenses and calling the right plays, putting skilled position players in the good position to be able to do that sort of thing. Again, this is all speculation at this point in time. We will definitely see what happens. I just think it's a little premature when you can't just look at a thing and say to yourself, this is this guy's MO, and not take into account their circumstances that dictate those things in those situations and say, okay, there's an opportunity here for those things to change. If they don't change, then we'll go with your assessment. You look, he's rigid. He doesn't want to change what he's doing. I just don't know that he's going to have a choice with the head coach that he has with him.
I agree, Ike. And I said this when Bobo was hired. I would have been more concerned with Bobo if Kevin Steele was our head coach. Right.
Yeah,
but you have Brian Harsin, who's your head coach, who knows how to run an offense. He's ran it on his come up to becoming a head coach. He knows what he wants to do offensively. And he likes in Bobo that there's some similarities, which means that they can collaborate. And they've talked about how they've had differences. They've had disagreements. Like and again, that's encouraging to see a coach even talk about, hey, there's been creative differences, but we're working on building Auburn's offense, not Bobo's offense, not Harsin's offense, Auburn's offense. And that's regardless of what he did at South Carolina, what Harsin did at Boise, they're at Auburn now. Completely different set of players, which means they're going to have to scheme around what these guys do well in their talent level. So it's just a different situation. So Bobo has to be flexible. I do want to ask you guys a question Lawrence asked, and we can clarify. He wanted to know, do y'all think just by designing plays well, we can improve Bo's completion percentage a few points?
Yes,
absolutely.
I agree with that. Yes, we definitely can. Just give him some easier throws. The question is going to be whether it is a 5-yard completion and the receiver goes down immediately because the throw was a little bit off target, or whether or not it is a catch and run situation where we can hit the person in stride and they can turn up for more yards after the catch. Will his percentage go up just because we're giving him easier, quick throws, situations where he can dump it down to somebody? I absolutely think that can be a possibility and should be a focal point early in the season, just to get him into a rhythm early in games, get him into a rhythm, allow him to feel for the flow of the game, see a couple of them go completed, and then we start to maybe open up on the outside some. So I think that absolutely can be a thing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's going to come down to, did the throw give the receiver an opportunity to make a play after the catch?
Right.
I mean, we saw that on a lot of his completions last year where, he had Seth downfield. Those guys hurt each other equally, kind of. Because Bo dropped some dimes on Seth that he just flat out dropped.
Yeah.
For a quarterback like that, you got to help him. You got to make those catches. But also, there were some throws where they were off target and just he led the receiver too much. And instead of running in for a touchdown, Seth had to fall and catch the ball.
And land on his ribs and be out for a game.
Right. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, I think that there was some equal, I put a little bit more on quarterback because when you're the receiver, you can't count on the ball coming to you consistently in any kind of way. Right. In terms of placement, there's a lot going through your mind when you just can't trust that the ball is going to be where you can make a play. But ultimately, what accuracy is more than just did he complete the pass or not. And that's one thing I'm trying to get through fans' heads. Right, because against boo-boo schools, right, you can throw inaccurate passes that get caught, and the receivers can still out-athlete the guy defending them. Yeah. Right, you throw that ball to the inside when it's supposed to be on the outside shoulder against Georgia or Bama, and it's pick six or your receiver's getting killed. Right,
or it's a 2-yard loss instead of a 8-yard gain.
Right, yeah. So that's what accuracy is. Not just did the receiver catch the ball. Right. There's a lot. You remember people used to say, if you get your hands on it, you should catch it. I think the defenses and athletes in terms of their athleticism have come so far that I don't think you can really say that anymore. These new style offenses and defenses require more from both sides of the ball in terms of the technicals. For the quarterback, ball placement is going to be super important, and even more so on these short throws. Right. On these little 2-yard outs, so these little dump off out of the backfields, you know, if it's imperative that the running back or the receiver can catch the ball and immediately see the field and make a play.
Right.
You know, now they got to make sure they catch it, but accuracy is going to be super important moving forward. You know, when you got guys like Pegues who are bigger, but you know that guy can't shift his weight as quickly, man. You need to put the ball where he can catch it and actually do some damage after the play.
I'm glad you mentioned Pegues. I'm glad you mentioned Pegues, Mike. Sorry to cut you off because we got a super chat asking about Pegues and how we could use him potentially.
Man,
do we like this idea by burner account using him in goal line situations? Man, what do we see? I know you guys like Pegues as a tight end.
I mean, I like him as a tight end or a fullback type of player. So goal line situations, if he's lined up as the fullback, that gives you a couple. Like I talked about maybe that was on the Chop It Up, where I talked about Spider Y2 Banana, the play that you hear if you ever watch Gruden do the QB thing. He always talked about that play, and it's basically you fake the dive and the fullback slips out into the flat, right? And then you hit him, you know, and that's a short yardage play that a lot of teams run. I could see Pegues doing something like that. I could see it just being a quick fullback dive and him going, you know, straight in. I could honestly see them going back to some sort of wildcat type of thing and letting him go in. Like a guy who can run that fast at that speed, it's almost a shame not to allow him to pick up a yard and a half. Right? Like, how do you not utilize somebody that big to do that sort of thing? Or he's just an absolutely crushing blocker leading through for Tank on short yardage situations, right? Like, you have 3 very definite things that you could do with someone that size who is willing to go in there and mash somebody. So if he's not used in short yardage situations, then I think that that's a tragedy of just understanding how to utilize a unique talent. So
could be Prosh and Jay Prosh, Trey Mason part 2 in a bigger, better way, honestly, because I think not that Jay Prosh wasn't an outstanding fullback, but
he was incredible.
Pegues is a big, fast moving dude, and that would be scary for anybody's linebackers to try to deal with. I wanted to go because I saw Walt drop. Yeah,
I'm with you.
So this did happen, right? So we stopped being go at a certain point in the Gus tenure, and I think Corey actually answered the question down here. It was in 2015. Our defense was not that good early. They improved as the season went on. By the end of the season, our defense was the strength of our team because our offense, all the hype coming in with Jeremy Johnson, then it kind of fell by the wayside. And I think they stopped because he made it very clear when Muschamp got hired that he was going to defer to Muschamp's judgment as a former head coach and as a professional. I remember distinctly against Louisville, we actually won that game. I think it was Gus's choice to, of course, punt or go for a short yardage to get a first down. And he went to Muschamp on the sideline. He had his hand on the thing. And of course, Gus never did that. And he didn't really do it since. But he made it a point, probably because Muschamp said, listen, man, if you don't give me some type of deference here, I'm going to be out of here. And he went with Muschamp's judgment, which I think was to punt it so the defense could get the stop. I don't remember. But he went to Muschamp and asked him. And I'm absolutely certain that part of that was to say, listen, I'm going to ease up on our defense because our defense isn't good enough, at least not yet. And from that point forward, like some of the things Ike was saying, the defense gets a chance to substitute and there was less advantage to going fast. But on top of that, our offense wasn't that good. It's like, listen, if what you're going to do is going to work, if you're going to guarantee yourself 4 or 5 yards of carry in a run heavy offense, then you can decimate the other team. They're going to be exhausted by the time you get to the end of the game. But if you can only get 2 yards of carry, you're going to be punting very, very quickly, and your mediocre defense is going to get tired very quickly. And that's a recipe for losing. And he had to come off the gas for that reason as well. And I think that was the reason for that.
If you're listening and not watching, the comment was, did it seem like the offense slowed down after Steele was hired? If you look at the film, say that, yes. Yeah, you might just see that, you know, the offense slowed down a little bit after Steele was hired. So I agree with everything that Brian just said.
Yeah, and I think to a degree, like going fast, here's the thing about going fast. You can go a lot faster when everybody understands what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know that everybody on the offense firmly understood what they were supposed to be doing on a consistent basis. And to me, that echoes everything that we've been saying about the coaching just needed to get better. And maybe it was players not understanding their, like being, homework oriented, and they were going in there really. But I think going forward, we are going to see a more methodical approach to offense, right? The approach to offense is going to be methodical. That doesn't mean we're going to be slower. It just means that the method in which we're choosing to attack defenses is going to be more calculated. That does not equate to slow. And I think people are afraid that we're going to become this slow-moving glacier down the field. But listen, make no mistake, I will take a slow-moving glacier that is constantly moving over one that is only going from it's almost as if we were trying to speed through a residential community with a bunch of stoplights. It's like you're gonna zip and then you're gonna stop, zip, stop, and it's like that's not a recipe. Like, okay, yeah, we got this Corvette, but this mug can't go but 60 miles per hour, but for 30 seconds. So who cares how much horsepower the thing is? It's not a wide open type of thing that we envisioned it being.
Right.
Give the Corvette some time to breathe, man. And we just weren't doing that. And an offense whose success was predicated on speed, slowing down, disaster.
Yeah. Right.
I love this comment by Ed Darby. I'm excited to see this change from week to week. And I think that's another reason why we have to talk about the offense slowing down a bit, is because Gus became predictable. After 2 years, people saw what was coming with Gus. They started defending him a lot better. And so I think when you have a coach like Harsin, and which led to us coming back off the break, talking about him evaluating how they're teaching these kids, evaluating what they're doing and making adjustments. One of the reasons people talked about Harsin being multiple is that it gives him the flexibility to adapt to what the defenses are doing. And when you have a coach who's multiple, you can see changes like this from week to week, which actually makes you a much more difficult offense to prepare for defenses in the SEC. Right. I'm all for it. Again, to your point, I don't care if it's a slow moving glacier. Does it move?
Right.
Are we moving the ball? Are we saying during the game, man, the defense is out there a long time, because every time we get the ball, we're not even getting a first down. We're going fast, but we're not getting a first down.
One of the frustrating things that I've heard from fans about statistics, and you guys know I love stats. I love advanced stats. I like the story that they tell in tandem or in correlation with what we see on film. Is that our defensive ranking numbers last season, right? And for years, our defense has been carrying this team in light of poor offensive output. And I didn't really think it was fair. Eventually, by the numbers, they were going to take a step back after you lose guys like Marlon Davidson and Derek Brown, right? When you lose that kind of talent, guys who it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to play at the next level. And every once in a while, even on a good team, even at Bama, your one side of the ball is going to take a step back for a little bit. And what we saw over there up the road is that as the defense took a step back and they were less dominant defensively, their offense came to play.
Right.
They evolved on offense. And we didn't have that switch to happen after our defense started to take a little bit of a step back. Right. And their numbers were being hurt by an offense that consistently put them behind the eight ball in terms of field position.
Right.
And so they give up a touchdown and people be like, oh, our defense isn't holding. I'm like, what, man? What are y'all watching?
Yeah.
They are consistently losing the field position battle because the offense is 3 and out.
Yeah.
And then by the fourth quarter, if you're not rotating like 11 guys, if you're not too deep at each position, they're worn out by the fourth quarter. So what I'm looking forward to seeing is that if we can produce, again, a slow-moving glacier, to your point, as long as it's still moving, we're good. Moving 4 yards at a time, 3 yards at a time, so that we're in third and manageable instead of 3rd and 9, and we need Bo to go through 3 checkdowns to get a first down. That's the situation you have to keep him out of, because I don't think mentally he's going to catch up to that part of the game for at least another year. So you
it's
need
not
to
going
give
to
him
come quickly. It's it's definitely going to be a thing where whatever our situation is, we have to know who the guy is back there playing quarterback, right?
Right.
And it's yet to be seen whether or not Bo Nix can do that, because he hasn't been asked to do that ever his entire his entire life. He's never been asked to analyze 1, 2, 3 reads ever. Like, that's just not something you don't just pick that up from watching film. You have to go out there and actually execute it on a game in, game out basis. So it's going to take him some time.
Yeah, and so under duress, the quarterback, your body defaults to what you've always done instead of what needs to be done, because he's never been asked to do that. So we have to keep it. We got to help him out, and we have to keep him out of those situations this fall. For the most part, every once in a while, listen, man, if you're going to be a championship team, your quarterback's going to have to go out there every once in a while and make a play. Right. But if you want this to be a 10-win season, it's going to be twofold, right? Again, we're going to limit the situations that we're asking him to do that. And then when he is asked to do that, he's going to pull it off some of the times. I don't think it's fair to him to consistently ask him to have to go out there and bail us out, in the middle of a bad play call.
Yeah.
Right. After your play calling put us behind the chains. So play calling has to change. I mean, it's going to help every position group, Bo included. Right. And I hope that he's excited. I keep telling people, as hard as we are on Bo, I think that Gus being gone is the best thing that could have happened to him if he's going to take the next step.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, if Gus had stayed, I had no hope for Bo. None. Show me the player. Yeah, show me the player.
That would have been a ripple effect.
If he had stayed, Bo had no chance. Now he's actually got a chance.
I've seen a couple of people mention Texas A&M, and they're actually the perfect example of what we're talking about understanding, Kellen Mond, by no stretch of the imagination, is a world-beating quarterback, right? He's just not. Like, he developed into being super efficient and keeping his team out of bad. The times where you saw Texas A&M sputter, Kellen Mond was being asked to throw the ball a lot, and he was throwing, like the game, not last year before last, where we come back and beat Texas A&M. He throws that pick to Igbenogany, right? He throws that pick to Noah. That pretty much helped us win that game. Was Kellen Mond throwing that interception late in the game, because we had when you don't put your quarterback in the position where he has to be the reason that you're winning, Texas A&M became better and better over time, because Jimbo realized, you know what? Let's scale this back a little bit. We're going to lean on Isaiah Spiller. We're going to run the ball a lot, and we're going to control the clock. We're going to win the game by putting their offense in bad situations and being great at pass rush. And Texas A&M has been feasting on the fact that they can put other teams in bad situations and control the clock. Now, have they won a title with that? No, because I think the deficiency there is when you get into the situation where the quarterback has to get you the stuff, Kellen Mond just isn't that guy.
Right.
Fortunately for us, and this is the thing that I'm going to have to give Bo credit for, he's just kind of a gamer, right? Like, in those pressure situations, I think if he's coached properly, he just knows how to go out there. Now, is it going to be pretty every time? No. It's going to be some miraculous stuff sometimes. It's going to be a poorly thrown ball to Seth Williams at the end of the Oregon game, but it goes for a touchdown, right? Because Bo's just a gamer like that. So, look, don't put a ton of pressure on him for the entirety of the game, but when those moments arise, just because he's got something inside of him that just allows him to step up in moments, he's going to do that from time to time. And the defense is going to win a bunch of games. The run game is going to win us a bunch of games. I think Bo Nix can win us a couple of games just off of that moxie that he has.
Right.
We just have to put him in better situations. I don't know what's up with my camera today, man. Sorry about that, guys.
I'm gonna spit, since we were talking about Kellen Mond, I'm gonna spit a stat at you guys that will blow your mind about how well their offense was called last year. Right. In 2020, Kellen Mond had 2 throwaways the whole season. He threw the ball away, intentionally threw it out of bounds only 2 times all season. right? And now listen, from a completion percentage aspect, he wasn't great. He finished at 63.1%. That's not world beating, but he also was only sacked 8 times, so it's not like he was taking sacks in lieu of throwing the ball away either.
Right.
That's what good offensive play calling will do for you. And so he was mid last season, and then when he was called upon and the opportunities were there, he could burn you because he still has decent arm.
Sure.
Right. I mean, he burned
accurate. He was accurate in ways that I had not seen him be. And I'm taking that to be the credit for Jimbo, even though I hate to do it for old Jimothy.
I was about to say, we about to get a Jimothy.
What?
Okay.
I mean, you have to, because we saw the before and the after. And that's something we don't get to see a lot in football. It's like, oh, who would this guy have been under somebody different? Well, we didn't get to see it because he was with that bad coach. So now we think the player is bad when in actuality, the player could be much better. And we hope that's what we've got. But Kellen Mond, there were a couple of pressure situations after Mike said that Texas A&M would beat Florida early in the season. And I said, and then they did. And I said, and I said, let me watch a couple of these games now. So every time from there on, if they were in a tie outside of Alabama, because they didn't show great against Alabama, they did move the ball fairly well. But when it was a tight part of the game and A&M needed to get a first down, he was hitting receivers on the side of their body that they needed to be hit to get away from the defender.
Right.
And that's a telltale of good coaching and better accuracy than I thought Kellen Mond had. And I think we've got room for that. I hope we've got room for that. But one big caveat is we don't have the offensive line that Texas A&M had.
That is the point some people are making in the comments.
Right.
That's the offensive line.
Yeah.
And that's how you control. That's how you play ball control. Is your offensive line goes out. But hear me again. Our problem with our offensive line wasn't necessarily run blocking. It was pass protection.
Absolutely.
So if you're not requiring them to have to block for 5 seconds to get a playoff, then you're going to see a better resultant offensive line. Get the ball out of his hands faster.
That's my point.
And you're setting up second and longs, third and you're putting yourself in positions where you have to depend on these guys to pass block. And then when they go out for a pass, to y'all's point, the receivers have to get downfield 20 yards before Bo can release. And Bo, and something else we pointed out in film review is that oftentimes Bo was not coached to anticipate the guy getting open. He waited to see an open receiver before he released, which means that's even more time for your O-line to have to block for these guys.
Yeah, there was a simple out during the chop it up that we did on Thursday where we talked about he threw an out to Stove. It was a complete pass. The ball should have been on the outside shoulder. It was thrown to the inside. Stove did an excellent job flipping his hips and catching the ball. But again, it was the difference between like a 4-yard gain or what could have been 10 to 15 yards if he had put it on the outside shoulder. So my point about Mond was, his stats say that he was a well-managed quarterback in 2020. His adjusted completion percentage is around 71%. So when you factor out things that are outside of his control, throwaways and all that stuff, he's 70%, which is, top tier in the league. And what those numbers say is a quarterback like that, when given time with perfect conditions, will kill you. We haven't been able to say that about our quarterback, right? That given ideal conditions, that he would burn you. And so the offensive line, again, I really believe this. If there are any offensive linemen that watch our show, throwing y'all a bone, right? I just think what they were being asked to do the last 2 seasons was not fair.
Right? Yeah.
When you break down the play calling, I just don't think it was fair. I think that if you get the ball, if you design plays that get the ball out of the quarterback's hands faster, you neutralize the rush.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you help your offensive line so that when you do need them to sit in and block for 5 seconds on what has to be a slow developing play, right? They can do that every once in a while. We saw plays where they did that, where they gave Bo 6 seconds to throw the ball. Right. I just don't think it's fair.
Awful.
Yeah. I just don't think it's fair to ask them to do that every other play, which is what we saw. So, we have a thing that we're starting WTF, watch the film. This is Ike's thing. Ike says to us, stop thinking with your emotions and watch the film, right? So WTF, we're going to do it. And that being said, because we're at the hour mark, I just want to make sure I plug this. Become an insider, right? These chop it up sessions are getting good. I'm loving every second of it. A big shout to Devin Aroma Shadu if he's watching. He was amazing breaking down film with Isaac. Those guys went back and forth, just kind of explaining to us what we were seeing, what the players' responsibility was, and what the coaches' responsibilities were on the play call. Right. So if you have not seen that, we can't do every single play. What we do is we take select plays to kind of demonstrate both completions and interceptions, what we're seeing and to identify trends in the game. So the last game we did was LSU. It was just amazing. Become an insider. You may have been able to catch that segment. You will not be able to catch the next one if you are not an insider. So only insiders will see this on their schedule. Become an insider so you can get access to that. Other than that, please hit our GoFundMe. Again, we're overwhelmed by the generosity of our subscriptions and our members. You guys with the super chats, Google takes a bigger portion of super chat. So if you really want to support us, take the extra step, hit that GoFundMe. You can find this link in the About section of our channel. And lastly, the Get Your Weight Up gear is out. It's spring, people. Get your weight up. You can start by hitting our merch store. I love this Letterman. It feels like butter on my body. You can have it too. I see that Caesar, C-Dub, and Ike have the shirts on as well. Brian has nothing but his bald head, but he's wearing merch at heart. So please get your War Report gear and help us continue to bring you quality content.
Yeah.
Quick question from Thomas. I haven't heard anything about the center position. All I know is right now Brahms is occupying that spot, and we'll continue to see if he continues to occupy that spot as spring goes on. But Council is still injured. He was definitely starting up until his injury, so we don't know if he comes back, if they work him into that rotation, starting five, where exactly, who moves over, if Brahms keeps his spot. That all remains to be seen. But guys, have you heard anything?
Listen, it all accounts are Brahms he's making progress. He's definitely making progress. I'll just be interested to see how it translates on the field. I don't think we're really going to know anything about how well he's doing until it gets here. But I expect him, barring anything catastrophic for that young man, I think that he'll at least start the season at center. But I believe that this coaching staff is developing a backup plan. Based on what we saw on the film, there were a lot of plays where he had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like he had no work. He didn't find ribs on anybody. Like, it was rough. And so I'm hoping that he can take the next step as well, too, because he's got talent. It just, again, to Ike's point, he's been driving it home on this live. It just seemed like a lot of players didn't understand what their responsibility was. And I think that Braun was one of them. After he hiked the ball, it seemed like he just didn't know what he was supposed to be doing. Right. Or he was confused. Now we were a little harsh on him. Some of the plays we broke down where he was struggling, it was against the better defenses in our league.
Yeah.
So I will say that the expectation for these guys cannot be perfection, because sometimes the defense is just going to best you. This is the SEC, man. Everybody's got athletes. Everybody's got top tier paid coaches, and every once in a while you're going to get beat. Right. So Brahms, I'll be curious to see how they handle that. Who's behind him right now? Is it Jaleel Irvin?
I think Irvin is the second string. Well, they haven't released a depth chart for real, but I think Irvin is,
Yeah, for sure. So, it is what it is. But O-line, we'll have our eye on them.
I did want to talk about this, guys, before we get too far into the show. Some people have talked about it in the comments. We haven't spent time talking about it. Brian alluded to it when we first started. But got to talk about Jeremiah Wright. Came out that he was out with an ACL injury. And listen, I expected to see an injury or two coming in spring, especially if this is going to be a physical spring that's necessary. some guys are going to get hurt. You just hate to see it from this kid because I think everyone appreciates a good underdog story where you see somebody come out of left field, impress the coaches, appear to be working with the first team, making a lot of progress, and then boom, they're out with a serious injury. What are you guys' thoughts about this? What does that mean for the defensive line moving forward? Because apparently this guy was winning some battles against the O-line, which I get it. Many people say that's not saying much, but for a guy who's projected O-line, D-line guy to be playing well like this, what does that mean for our defensive line moving forward?
It's I can't say it's scary. It was nice to have somebody jump out so early in camp. The offensive lineman was saying, no, he's different. The other defensive lineman was saying, no, he's different. And the coaches were like, no, this kid's different. That's what I want to hear is everybody, your teammates and your coaches are saying you are showing up. You seem to be playing the part. You're accepting the coaching. You're taking the next step. It's really good. I think back to our Tuberville days, right? When you could count on when we needed a stop and that stadium was roaring. It's like you just knew we're going to get a stop. And it was going to be Groves off the corner, or it was going to be McClover off the corner, or it was going to be one of the linebackers blitzing. But when we needed that, we were going to get it. And we haven't had that here. 2019 was the first time I felt that confident about we are going to get the stop we need in years. It had been so long since I had that feeling. And I was hoping it's usually because, the team is well coached and the defensive coaches know what to call to get us to where we need to be. But you can always count on a player. It feels like somebody's going to be around the ball. Like you just hear somebody's name. They're going to be around the ball. They're going to make that play when it needs to be made. I was so encouraged by hearing this guy's name over and over and over again so early in camp. I wanted that reassurance, and it could still come. We're talking like the first week and a half into camp, but we've got a long way to go. We've got spring, we've got summer and fall, but man, that bit of excitement that I was getting to kind of flash back to those times where the defense was dependable, the names were dependable, and for him to be taken out so early in the spring, I mean, it's disheartening. But hoping the best for him in his healing and that he can be ready for. If not, bowl practice, maybe he can get some reps in there. But, if not, then the next spring, I just hope he keeps his head up because, I mean, what does it got to feel like to be in the best shape of your life, making the biggest impact you've made in what you've chose to do with your life, which is football. And then, I mean, you're out for roughly a year. So wishing the best for the kid.
Yeah, first and foremost, my heart goes out to this kid. You hate to hear about ACL tears, in practice, it's such a setback, and some guys, depending, on how their recovery goes, medical technology has come a long way, so we see more guys recovering from ACL tears than we used to in the past. But it is still, one of the hardest injuries in sports to come back from. So, keep your head up, young man. The rehab, they have an excellent staff, medical staff there that I know will manage his recovery process so that he can see the field and live out his dream. You never want to, whenever a player gets injured, I always want to make sure that we highlight that this is one of those moments where we just stop, slow down and realize like football is not life. Right. And that these guys are out there and they're trying to live their dream, and you put your heart and soul into something and then completely out of your control, something like this happens. So, I hope that, this is where the family comes in, where the community comes in. We never want, and even if it's not at our school, we never want to just make light of injuries. It's really tough on these guys. Right. Like, so that being said, Mason has a lot of toys in the tools in the toolbox, right? So I expect it to be next man up on defense. I was reading about how he is like a kid in the candy store with all this talent that he has, and the successful defenses that he's had in the past. At was it Stanford and at Vanderbilt, he's never had this kind of talent, defensively. So I expect to see somebody emerge in Wright's place. And then when this young man comes back from this injury, again, we're deeper at the position.
Agreed.
Right. It's an opportunity. At the end of the day, the frown upside down is an opportunity for somebody else to step in and be part of the team in a meaningful way. So, I hope that, I know Jeremiah will be rooting on whoever his replacement is, but I also know that he wants to get back as soon as possible.
I see a few people mentioning in the comments, and I believe he actually worked out with the first team on Thursday. Was it Marquise Burks? So that's a guy to keep an eye on. You got Dre Butler, you got Walker. I mean, you got some people who can fall in and get some valuable reps to be a contributor alongside Truesdale, who's him coming back has been huge, especially now more than ever. But who's going to step up and be that other guy? I think Lee Hunter will be that guy in the future. I just think, like Davis and like other true freshmen, he's just trying to get his fun to him. Being on college and being in spring camp, learning the college game for the first time. So it may take him some time, but you still got some bodies there. So yeah, I think that especially it happening early in the spring gives times to guys an opportunity to try to make a splash and contribute. So didn't know if you guys had anything more on that.
No, man. Heart out to that kid. I hope he comes back.
It's always hard to hear, young person working really hard, seeming to make strides, and an injury kind of derails that, but hopefully he bounces back quickly, and just get healed up, man. Don't try to rush back out there, because you have a long football playing career hopefully ahead of you as you continue to progress. Just come back stronger, and we'll be rooting for you when you get back.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's see here. Got anything else, guys? Anything else we want to discuss? We're at the 116 mark.
Yeah, I see the D. Williams is in here talking about the freshman Marquise Robinson coming in May. So we do still have some guys coming in the summer, right? It's going to be interesting. Dylan Brooks, man, my eyes are going to be on this kid. I think he was one of the more interesting recruiting stories out here. I mean, he kind of fell in our lap in the Jeremy Pruitt McDonald's Monopoly sweepstakes, right? Like we landed this kid. We were number 2 on his list. So after the Pruitt saga unfolded, he flipped his commitment to us. And how people evaluated him was so wildly different from service to service. ESPN has him rated as the number 18 overall recruit in the 2021 class. And I think 247 had him way down in the 60s or 70s. Scout had him in like 100 something. But somebody looked at him and said he's a top 20 player in the country. So I expect him to see the field. And as a true freshman, I'll be interested to see how they manage these guys that you're talking about in the first few games, because they'll have a summer. Most of the fall guys come in the summer now, right? Way back in the day, we talked about this in our interview with the Ox, right? Like back in the day, the fall guys didn't hit campus until August. Now a large majority of them, barring any academic issues, are coming in the summer, so they at least get to catch up somewhat in terms of strength and conditioning during the summer, and then go into fall camp with a chance. So these first 4 games that we have, 3 Cupcakes and Penn State, I want to see how much time they get these guys during those games. Are we up enough that we can put these guys in and get them some meaningful game experience to know whether we need to redshirt them or if they'll be meaningful contributors later in the season, if injuries happen or some guys just not playing up to expectations. So I'm excited about a lot of evaluation is changing. I can't stress that enough. So the way they evaluate, because it's changing, there may be some names that wasn't high on everybody's list. They weren't high. And then we're like, wait, where did this kid come from? Nobody was talking about him. We don't pretend to know it all here at the War Report. I'm telling you, I expect there to be some surprises where it was like, nobody was talking about this kid and he just came out of nowhere and is a star for Auburn.
Right.
They got 100-something guys out there, man. We can't keep up with them all. But I see that That's happening here. And then Lawrence is one of our most consistent contributors here. Our 2020 recruiting class was pretty good too. So there's still some talent ready to pop. Right. 2020 class was number 7 in the country. And I think we have better coaches. I'm not sure what he's saying there about number 7 in the country. But to his point, there's talent. There's a lot of talent there. We just need them to do something with it and produce at minimum 8 wins this season. Please give us 8 wins.
I say 9.
9 wins. I'm not sure where 9 are coming from.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, I think it's doable.
We only have 4 that are question marks, right? Georgia, Bama, LSU, A&M. And A&M just lost their quarterback and their whole offensive line.
I think Ole Miss is a question mark, honestly.
I don't. Not yet. Not on defense yet.
Yeah,
I think
defensively they're probably just going to outscore people, but their defense was pretty bad. It would have to get better for them to be a legit threat in the West, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's going to depend on how our offense plays, right?
Agreed.
I think our success and failure this entire season depends on how well the offense plays. If our offense is capable, again, I'll say this: I know everybody in this era of offensive explosion wants to see an offense putting up 40 points per game, right? Because that looks sexy on the highlights. Mm-hmm. I myself do not care that much if we are winning games and our defense is dominant and we're playing ball control. I think you can still win games like that. I don't think that that's a formula for national championships, but I think we can evolve into being that place as we start to show that the style of offense that we're going to run is going to equip some of these more talented players offensively to go to the NFL. If you're showing them an offense that doesn't have them in a place where they can get to the NFL, they're not going to come there, right? So we need to make a good showing this year. We have competent coaches. We have a competent system that's going to allow you to go to the next level. They'll start to give you a better look. And then when you go out there and make those recruiting calls, you can say with confidence, look, we put this many guys in the league. We set this guy up for success. Now you can start to come to Auburn and anticipate being able to do that sort of thing on a consistent basis offensively. We've been able to say that on defense. I want to see us be able to do that on offense. So hopefully we'll be able to show that and show improve in the next year. And we'll see a transformation of that offense into a place where we can start to put up those numbers, right? Because we're getting the talent that elevates the scheme to another level.
Facts.
Yeah, I see a few people asking about the safety kid from
West Virginia, JJ Smith.
Yeah, so I know Auburn is looking at O linemen in the portal whenever they appear, but what's the likelihood that we grab him from West Virginia?
Listen, I read up on this weekend about this kid, right? So there's some kind of mass exodus of players happening at West Virginia right now. I'm not sure what's happening with their program, but guys seem to want out. And this would be, Drayshawn Miller was the first, and he would be in competition with Tennyson, I think, for that other safety slot. But
no, Tennyson is Ladarius Tennyson's the other safety.
You said Tennyson is safety. Okay, you're talking about Tennyson is in competition. Gotcha. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so I think that it's never a bad idea to pick up more talent, right? He seems talented. I looked at his numbers. I'm not sure if he could come in and challenge immediately, but he's talented enough that I would want him. And so if he decides to come here, I would assume, just like Drayshawn he seems supremely confident in his own ability that he could just walk in here and start and go to the NFL in 1 year. He said that. He was a pretty bold statement by him. Tyke Smith has that same kind of energy. And, I think it would be a good idea. I don't think we can be deep enough on defense, honestly, depending on what we see offensively this year. If we want to stay fresh, man, I think more is better.
Yeah.
Personally. So I look at him and I just felt like, this would be a good get. And in light of how recruiting went, when you count the transfers, when you count the portal transfers, man, this turned out to be a pretty decent class for Harsin. It's still going.
Absolutely.
It's March and it's still going. Like, you know, so this is.
Listen, we're likely going to lose some players ourselves, right? Like everybody who's on the team is not going to stay on the team. We've already had injuries, so being content with what you have just means that you're not aware that you still have room to grow. And I don't think that this staff is saying to themselves, we can't get better. Right. And they're going to try to get better consistently. Whether or not that happens to be with a safety, you know, we'll see. I like both of the safeties that we have. But is there a way for us to improve at that spot? We don't know. Is there a way for us to be deeper at that spot? Because let's not forget, as disastrous as that Georgia game was, do you know the point at which the morale for that entire team went down? Targeting call, Smoke Monday.
That's right. It was
very early in that game.
Sure.
The morale plummeted the very moment they kicked him out of that game, right? And so not having a competent backup there, and that's no shot to anybody else who is playing safety. It's just different when he's a leader like that, right? And so you need other people to be able to step in and be leaders in that same way, right? So getting a more depth in leadership is never a bad thing.
Right, absolutely. Nola Trey, just want to address this really quickly because we're at the end. Super important. If you are on the iPhone and you're in Safari and you go to youtube.com, there are two little A's in the top left corner of the address bar. You can hit that and then choose view desktop site. And then when you go to our page, you should be able to see the join button on an iPhone. If not, it's, you know, the easier thing to do would just be to go to a computer and join. And then when you log on to your iPhone, all your insider perks will be there. But that's the only way to sign up on an iPhone is to go to the desktop version of the site so that join button shows. If you're looking at the mobile version or if you're in the app, it will not show because Apple wants to process that payment if you go through that route. But you can get around that and still have all your insider perks. FYI. Hope that helps.
Yep.
Oh, well, guys, we have anything else? Any more business we want to discuss for this tailgate? Anything left out? I know people asked about tight ends. We've been excited about tight ends and 12 personnel. We've been talking about it. We didn't talk about it today. We talked about it with JG on the War Room this past week. But yes, we'll be talking about tight ends to come. I did see somebody ask about that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, Trey, man, you warming up. You about to come on board with this membership? I see.
Hey, listen, this community is building, and I got to tell you, after this chop it up that we had, as much as I like to talk, I love on the chop it ups to just listen to Ike and whoever the player is talk about breaking down plays. And I like to read gives me a chance to kind of read you guys' comments. Our community is really, really insightful. I mean, Ed Darby never ceases to amaze me with his analysis of things, always spot on. You know, we don't want to just talk at you guys, man. We're building community. So if you notice in the comment section of our videos, we answer comments, even the trolls. So if you're coming and you're looking for engagement, you're going to find it at the War Report. You know, I see a lot of these other creators, they post up stuff and then they disappear and their subscription base never hears from them again. You know, we're very opinionated, but we're willing to defend those points. And hopefully through civil discourse, we all learn something. I've had a few commenters to definitely change my mind on some things that, you know, I felt like I was solid on, but it caused me to kind of look at it from a different angle because you guys are smart too. I mean, listen, everybody can watch the film and if we all see something different, maybe we all learn something different. Right. I think it's really what sets our community apart from a lot of them. I know we're very strong in our opinions, but I also don't pretend to know everything. That's why we bring players on to talk to you. The guys who have been in it and have done it, right? We learn from them as well. We don't want to learn a lot from them. So, you know, I appreciate everybody being a part of our community that we're building. It's growing, and we're going to come up with some creative ways to keep engagement high as our subscription base grows. I never want to lose that. I never want to lose, you know, the connection that we have with everyone who supports us.
Indeed. We want to go ahead and take us out with any. I think we got something coming tomorrow, don't we, Mike G?
Yes,
it's already out. It's already out for some people, but
I don't have the graphic. But if you are an insider or a supporter, you got the part one of the Coach Yachts interview yesterday. So we had a very long, insightful talk with Coach Yachts. He broke a lot of things down for us. So that interview has a little bit of everything. Technical, insider knowledge, emotion. I mean, it was an amazing interview. It's one of the best we've done. And, if you are playing to get your weight up game, get your shot glasses ready for a segment with a strength and conditioning coach. But that interview debuts tomorrow for everybody else. So please look out for that at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think of what Coach Yachts has to say. We broke it into 3 parts. So that is a 3-part interview. We talked to him for over 2 hours. Mainly because of me, because I'm obsessed with strength and conditioning. But loves talking to Coach Yachts. Definitely one of the greatest days of my life, talking to the legend about getting our weight up. So we have that coming. If you want more interviews, if you want more access, please become an insider. $5.99 will get you there. Thursday was the last time you'll be able to see the Chop It Ups. We have even more value coming for that $5.99 a month. So if you support us there, it's not just the Chop It Ups. Look forward to more premium content that we'll be bringing you guys as we start to move through here. We have our GoFundMe up. You can find this link in the About section of our page, our YouTube page, and then the merch store is up as well. Get your weight up merch. It's hot right now, so appreciate everybody support. However you choose to support, we appreciate it.
All right. Well, guys, again, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for being active in the comments, chopping it up with us on this lovely Sunday. We'll be back with you again later on this week with more content as we normally do. But until then, guys, please, as always, like and subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. You can also find us on social media. That's Instagram, Twitter at The War Report. You can find us at TW Report on TikTok. That's it for now. Pray you have a blessed week. As always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.